Oh yeah. What up, y'all? It's your boy, the one and only A Switch, aka Bob Cousy, getting ready to play on getting ready to play on the a 70s basketball team, some sort in a minute. AKA the Komaki Tiger Dropper. AKA the Fruit Snack Frugalist. You know it. AKA, damn it, I keep forgetting all my aliases. Something. AKA that nigga. That's all. AKA the nigga Lil Master. Bringing you yet another episode of Switches Sites. Episode 177. I guess some minor housekeeping a little bit for video and or stream viewers. May be curious what happened to the room cam. I wish I knew myself. Basically, for some reason, the webcam that I was using for that just did not stop cooperating. I guess probably broke. But now it was the issue where I got another one, and it because they're the same like model as like the one I use, at least in terms of this main shot. I don't think there's a way to use multiple of the same webcam for some strange reason. I may have to do some more research, troubleshooting to figure that out, but that is at least why I've not been able to get that cam to work or cooperate for what the past couple episodes. So I guess we'll see. Worst case, you just get more of this handsome face, It's unfortunate, but hey, sometimes you just gotta look at cute people, Just sometimes you just gotta look at them, just look at them in their face, maybe lick them a little bit, just to make things a little bit more live. Oh, let me stop. Let me stop. Got a pretty good episode for you this week. Got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. Been watching a fair amount of stuff. Really been playing only spoilers. Only been playing really Final Fantasy 16 when I could have. So there's that. Hope everybody had a happy 4th of July. Apparently my neighborhood doesn't know when the 4th ends because normally they pop the fireworks every goddamn weekend, but now it's just they popped it off today like at least like 20 times since it turned night. It's like they don't know when the 4th stops, when it ends. But I digress. Excuse me. So without further ado, let's stop the dilly-dallying and get right into it. First topic of discussion. Look at my time codes right. So word on the street is that Red Dead Redemption potentially maybe is likely in the works. At least initially, according to the game being rated in Korea in 2023, fairly recently. So for those that don't know, in terms of when a game gets rated, in other countries, it's pretty much a given that it will likely come to, the US at some point. So based off this, it seems to be rated for PC. And according to their the Korean game rankings, NV refers to console games, while NP refers to PC games. So in this case, it was referred to as NP, which would be PC. So that pops up a few questions specifically. Since the first Red Dead Redemption has never been ported to PC, which, of course, a fair amount of people, very much are requesting and want, include myself. I totally play Red Dead again on PC, even though there is on if you have a Series X and you have a copy of Red Dead Redemption for 360, you can pop it in, and I think you can play at least with Microsoft's magic butter, if you will, aka emulation to some extent, or their I guess essentially it's emulation, but they're basically able to do some trickery to upscale classic retro games from the 360 and even OG Xbox era to, at least in the case of Red Dead Redemption, to be 4K 30. I thought 60, but I think it's 30, which is pretty dope. Depending on how things turn out, shoot, I'm tempted to play the first one again. Hell, play the second one again. That was a wonderful experience. But nonetheless, so that was the first tidbit of what we got like earlier last week. Then to add to that, some of the social club trophies got updated, apparently, according to a Twitter user whose tweet is now unavailable. So that's even more credence to this, is after they revealed this and they took it down. But bless Reset Era in terms of getting them screenshots before it was. So at least you could tell from like at least one cases, there is a picture with money bags. That in terms of the old picture trophy, it looks way more like faded and just pretty bland in comparison to the new one, which is way more defined and contrasted, if you will. So it very much looks updated nonetheless. So that further definitely adds credence to at least the likelihood of us getting a PC port to be pretty likely. And then adding even more to this is apparently on I think an earnings call for Take-Two, which is the parent company at Rockstar Games, there was a mention of officially that there's, and at least quoted specifically, among their initiatives for this period, they have mentioned the release of two quote unquote previously released titles. As of now, I don't recall them officially announcing these projects yet. We also plan to launch 2 new iterations of previously released titles in fiscal 2024. So generally, to my understanding, the fiscal year ends in March of 2024. So it's very likely we'll at least get one of those 2 titles before the end of this year, which it seems like it's more than likely probably going to be Red Dead Redemption, the original Red Dead Redemption for PC. Since, you know, obviously the game has previously come out on PS3 360, where I guess there could be a possibility that it could be alongside PC. There could be a release of kind of an updated version, if you will, for consoles as well. But there's also the fact that within Red Dead Redemption 2, literally the whole map from the first game is included in Red Dead Redemption 2, even though from what I recall when playing it, it's very bare bones and obviously kind of like a shadow of his former self, which makes sense because it is a prequel to the first one anyway. So, but I mean, when you look at that as well, it seems like the groundwork has already been put in place, and considering how the events of Red Dead Redemption 2 kind of set it up to be for Red Dead Redemption 1 remastered, remade to happen, I mean, all signs are definitely pointing to this being, well, I mean, damn near pretty much confirmed at this point. So that's pretty dope. I definitely would welcome it very much. But that opens the question to, obviously we can pretty much assume that Red Dead Redemption 1 is a given. But what is the other iteration? So specifically it's a previously released title, so it's nothing new. So it's definitely something being ported and or remade technically. So I have a few guesses when it comes to that. My other guess, which I would very much not want, but could be likely, is Grand Theft Auto 5 ported yet again. In this case, possibly on, I hate to say it, the Nintendo Switch. Cloud version. I really wouldn't want that. Obviously, I wouldn't want that personally, but I could see it. I mean, you know, they of course released the whole original trilogy, GTA trilogy on the Switch. So it's not like it's foreign territory for them to release their games on Nintendo Switch. Obviously, GTA 5 sells an insane amount of money still. So could also be, you know, lucrative in that respect to get people who maybe only have a Switch. And, you know, if it is on there, they will totally play it. That's a possibility, but I don't know. I guess technically the other possibility could be, at least from what I'm hearing as well from others, is that GTA 4 could be remastered slash not remastered. Yeah, remastered. Maybe potentially remade. I would assume more so remastered. But then again, like Red Dead Redemption 1, there is on the Xbox Series X, you can play I believe a 4K 60 upscaled version of GTA 4. So I don't know. That makes me less, I don't know, less I don't know, like my affinity towards it not as great in that respect. I don't know. Previously released titles. Yeah, so I assume at least one for sure is Red Dead Redemption 1. And then the other is probably GTA. Whether it's 4 or 5, who knows? Maybe it could be GTA 5 for PC, but maybe an updated version that I know gets rid of the boggled games for Windows Live, arbitrary Xbox tie-in that would, didn't really, is more of a hindrance nowadays than like a help, if you will. Actually, let me fact check that real quick. GTA 4 for Windows Live patched. I know you can for sure absolutely mod it out. I'm curious if they like just straight up patched it where they totally removed that integration. Yeah, because it is on Steam. Or is there a way to play it, just omit it or just ignore it? Okay. So I guess it seems to just work like a local app apparently. I assume you lose the online multiplayer functionality, which is a shame because, man, that was some really fun multiplayer. Even before Grand Theft Auto Online, Team Mafia work, that I wish they bring that mode back to some capacity because that was a very fun mode. At least for those that may not know, the setup was basically think like a traditional multiplayer objective type mode, if you will, for like any standard multiplayer game. But in this case, it's basically like playing like single player GTA, but you're playing against another team. And it could be multiple teams. It could be like just one team against another, or like kind of like a similar to Halo in a way, multi-team type thing where there's like multiple teams facing each other. And the premise is that you get these random jobs, and that's the cool part too, is that it's totally random in terms of like the mission. So they're basically like you get a random mission that everybody collectively is appointed to do, but then like some of the nuance comes into play when they're generally like get the drugs from these locations, and there's like at least an allocated amount across the map that pretty much leads to conflict between the other teams. So basically, if I'm trying to get some drugs from a location on the map, the other teams are doing the same thing. So it could come to a point where two teams are trying to get the same like pack of drugs, and then like a shootout happens, and then you can either hit the opposing team, or you got a teammate with you on the back of your motorcycle trying to gun them down and then get the package and deliver it. And it adds a whole interesting layer, in my opinion, for kind of the gameplay to make it way more engaging, and a nice spin on a multiplayer spin on like the single player GTA formula, if you will. So I totally love that mode. I'm surprised I from what I've played the many times in the past, it really wasn't a mode like that in GTA Online, from what I've witnessed and played. There, at least the closest was like, I think there's some dedicated like modes where it's basically like a destined mission, like a allocated cutoff mission where it is set up where you are against another team, but it's not the same. It's not like a what felt like I don't know, a full blown world where after you complete one mission, then they give you another one, then they give you another one, and then of course you can adjust the timing in terms of like however many objectives you completed, and all that accumulates, and then whoever did most of the objectives wins types thing. But for the GTA Online one, it was way more cut off and like sparse. It just wasn't as, I don't know, robust as Team Mafia work. And I just like the whole concept of just the randomness of each mission. It didn't feel like there was a bare minimum of missions. It felt very varied in terms of like the various objectives, and I think they also kind of made sense in the world in terms of the somewhat of the continuity of the story to an extent that I just really liked, and I think they really nailed it. And I'm disappointed that at least in GTA Online there hasn't been a mode. Maybe we might get it back in GTA 6 potentially, but man, I really wish they brought that back. Man, that was a fun ass mode. But I digress. So yeah, I don't know. Something a previous release. So yeah, it's gotta for sure Red Dead Redemption 1 and or I doubt it would be, no, they wouldn't do Red Dead Redemption 1 and Red Dead Revolver. I don't think. If anything, it would be included with Red Dead Redemption 1, I would guess. So my guess is probably likely GTA 4. Unless they port GTA 5 on Switch. Those are my top two guesses. They've already ported the previous GTAs semi recently, so that seems to be the next logical step if it's a previous game they released, unless they just come out of nowhere and announce like Rockstar Table Tennis or something. Manhunt. I wouldn't mind Manhunt, a remake of Manhunt. Make it even more gorier, like in Mortal Kombat. I mean, it was gory to begin with at its time and very controversial, but man, yeah, I think they fixed the game for Windows Live thing, so yeah, it could very well be just a remake of GTA 4 potentially. Who knows? Who knows? Moving on. Speaking of leaks, keep that leak train going. Choo choo. Last of Us Part 3 apparently has been leaked. A couple of details. Credit goes out to viewer Anon on Twitter. At least what he said specifically. Look, it's early. Story details are tweaked, and everything is potentially up in the air to be changed. But I assure you, I've heard Ellie is at least as important in The Last of Us Part 3 as she was in Part 2. Then in terms of the thread reply getting questioned, that's very questionable. And he said, all I can say is I've been very vocal for quite a while that The Last of Us Part 3 is in development and others are finally noticing. Major filming is happening this year. And in response to that, you mean motion capture? And he says, however you define it, they are rolling cameras and recording audio as well. So that brings up a few questions. Well, I guess potential spoilers for Last of Us Part 2, but I'll try to be careful in that respect. But how Part 2 ended, it technically is open, but then it's like, what else can they, I don't know, explore after Part 2? It's hard for me to kind of fathom. I mean, they did allude to a new, they did have somewhat of a time jump, I think, towards the end, as well as a new kind of threat, if you will. So I guess they can kind of lean into that with part two. I mean three. My other something else I thought I heard was that there was some focus on multiplayer, which maybe they could have thought that that factions which we talked about previously, that was the touted big next game from them, that was gonna be almost the next call in, if you will, that they seem to be having trouble getting that out. So maybe they, I don't know, after more deliberation and development, maybe thought maybe they would flesh that out into a game potentially. I don't know. Yeah, at least how part two ended, it would be it alluded, if there was a continuation of it, that it would more so feature Abby than Ellie, which technically could still be the case, and as well, obviously, a grain of salt, but interesting. A major role. Huh. And I guess when it comes to the filming aspect, maybe they could be doing some integration with the HBO or HBO themselves, in terms of maybe that would be kind of crazy that they happen to release both of these at the same time. That'd be crazy as hell. That'd be an interesting experiment too. Like, I don't think that's ever technically been done, at least at this capacity, where, potentially they release like the show that will probably, be weekly with new episodes, and then the game, and maybe they could play with it, maybe, add some value to each, where, you can get a different perspective from the show versus the game, and vice versa, which I think that'd be pretty cool and interesting to play with and do if they were going that route. But interesting. I think this is definitely way down in the pipeline for sure. I think they're currently working on some new unannounced game IP. So I'm pretty sure it's a new IP that we haven't seen before. So I don't think we'll be seeing this anytime soon, but at least it's kind of good to know. And maybe they might end up putting factions along with this. I don't think they'll do that. I think they know people really want it, so I think they'll at least bring factions, as it still have faction as its own thing. But I thought I saw somewhere where they were talking about it having like totally different multiplayer. Maybe I'm misremembering that. Yeah, I don't know. So there you go. Apparently, obviously, grain of salt still. Last was part 3. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely will take it, but it's still the same thing. Like even with the first one, like totally would have been content with just that being the last of that. But I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed Last was Part 2. There was some as time passed, I've kind of warmed up about it, but man, I had some issues initially for sure, but I digress. So there you go. Last was Part 3. Who would have thought? Not me. I mean, I thought there was a possibility, but moving on. Ready? Just swang it. Mortal Kombat 1 dropped a trailer, as well as there is I think what they call a combat cast. But initially they did show this trailer. which I want to watch again actually to refresh my memory as well. So seems like they show a little bit of what I assume, what I assume is the story, continued story, at least on the Lin Kuei side. With now in this timeline, apparently Scorpion and Sub-Zero are now brothers, or more related in the same clan at least. So that's dope. They showed a new level, it seems like a Lin Kuei temple or something like that. At least the vibes it gives off for sure. They also showed some new aspects. They showed Scorpion as a cameo fighter, which I don't think we saw that until this trailer. And they also show Smoke, who is also at least going to be an initial character now, which is pretty dope. I'm kind of digging his design. He looks, very similar to the original ninjas, Scorpion and Sub-Zero. He's got his own, got the gray hair. He got the pepper. He got the salt and pepper, and he throwing that smoke around he got the little dagger. I think that's kind of cool. He got the smoke is attached to his dagger, and I guess he can associate the smoke properties to the dagger, like when he throws it and stabs people with it. Was pretty cool. Then they also revealed a couple of new cameo fighters, which I think one, outside of the Scorpion, which I don't think we've seen before. They also showed Cyrax and Sector, and they seem to be pretty akin to their OG iterations, which I think the concept is somehow they're able to use these enemies. There's probably some story explanation for it, I'm sure. Well, knowing that this is the new timeline, so maybe there's some means of them to bring people from the older timeline into this one, and probably there's some story explanation for it, I guess. But that's at least where they're going with, which I think is actually a pretty good mix and blend, kind of giving them the freedom to start fresh while also reference back to the classic games. Also got Frost as well, which was interesting. That's a surprise. It makes sense, her being a cameo character. But man, these X-rays, they like going in full depth. Then it's like they're dead, but they're still getting up. I don't know how that works, but obviously video game logic, suspension of belief to some extent there. What else? We got Sector, Cyrax, Kung Lao, I think we saw as a cameo fighter. More levels, more X-rays, showing Cyrax or Sector's X-ray attack. Well, combination of both. They totally did. I forgot Rain. They also showed Rain. I'm not sure I dig. Well, I don't know. I've never really dug this whole extension of Rain being this elemental sorcerer vibe they're going with now. He seems very different from how he played in I forgot. I'm not sure if he was in 11 or not. I forgot. I know he was for sure. He was in 10 or 11, but I think he was in 11. He's like a sorcerer now. He's got a staff and everything. I don't know. Part of me wants the Rain, all the MK ninjas to still be, I don't know, ninjas, I guess. That's probably the best I can ask for. But yeah, you got showing Frost, her being a cameo, Smoke doing some of his combos with his little curved dagger, doing the illusions and comboing in his buddy. Interesting. Showed a classic fatality from Scorpion. But yeah, looking really good. Oh shit. shit, smoke show. Oh my god, he put the smoke in it, cut his arms off, put a smoke bomb in the dude's mouth, jaw blew out, fatality. I love Mortal Kombat. I'll never stop. I'll never stop. So after that, they did show like a more extensive feedback in terms of like, you know, basically saying, hey, we got a lot of helpful data from the stress test, which I unfortunately did not get to participate in. And yeah, they got a lot of like the essential like criticisms from the stress test, and they're like, hey, we're looking at that, we're having conversations about what to change and things like that. So that's good that they're at least listening to feedback, making this the best game it could be when it does release in September. So that is dope. What else? What the hell else? Oh yeah, they showed Johnny Cage in terms of his new mechanics, which is very interesting. So apparently he's lost in this timeline iteration of him. He's apparently lost like his projectile, like supernatural ability moves for the most part. Because I think at least the one things that he's missing now with this iteration is he's missing like his underball attack. I think he still has the shadow kick, but he's basically I think they said he's a rushdown character now for the most part. So he has some interesting properties, but what they show is pretty dope. So he can do this dash move where he can dash quickly and do it twice in succession, as well as a dash through people. So if you're, you know, more than at least probably the most obvious scenario is if you're getting cornered and getting that ass tapped in the corner, you can do that attack to get out of danger in that respect. And then the other aspect they showed was he has this star icon in his lower right for his character, which basically is, I guess, it kind of reminds me of Jamie's drinks from Street Fighter 6 in a way, where basically with most of his attacks, he can taunt at the end of the attack to build the gauge up. And I'm assuming, I don't think they showed what happens when it maxes out, but apparently when you max it out, you can probably get like be super powered to some extent or have a lot of some advantages of some sort that you wouldn't have with that gauge being maxed out otherwise. So, but yeah, you could tell like you can definitely express him as a character in his entirety and flipping people off and being very obnoxious in a lot of ways, which is, hey, that's Johnny Cage really when you think about it. So he seems pretty cool. I definitely would play with him. I don't know. He wouldn't be my go-to. Probably Jax. I mean, I know they about to. I know they gonna knock Jax out the park for sure. I can't wait to see that. But, yeah. I think after that, I don't think they really showed too much. I think they went into explanation a little bit of the cameos, at least some of the cameos we saw, I want to say. And that was pretty much the gist of it. So, really digging it. Mortal Kombat 1 is shaping up to be, yet again, another great game. I mean, man, I was thinking about it, and, you know, I know the conversation is being brought up as well, but man, this actually might be one of the best years in gaming history, to be honest. Like, just awesome game after awesome game, and Resident Evil 4 remake, Dead Space remake, Final Fantasy 16, Spider-Man 2, Mortal Kombat 1, Street Fighter 6. Man, if Tekken I doubt Tekken's coming out this year, but man, if Tekken comes out this year, oh my god, I doubt it. I mean, I'm pretty sure we'll find out by Evo this year, but boy, man, if Tekken comes out in the same year, goodness, that'd be crazy. That would be this would definitely be a year in the books for sure. Moving on. Of course, with the ongoing FTC versus Microsoft drama, there's been a lot of just very interesting information details being put out. At least in this case, it was not intentionally, but all due to the fault of a particular Sharpie. So basically, in a document Sony supplied from PlayStation chief Jim Ryan, included redacted details on margins of Sony shares with publishers, Call of Duty revenues, cost of development some games, etc. And so basically, someone redacted the documents with a black Sharpie, but when they were scanned in, the Sharpies are it's very easy to see past them, essentially. So pretty much all the information is there, and I guess somehow got hold of the document and shared it with us. So at least some of the details specifically that are very interesting, at least that I found interesting, is some of the like budgets for some of the AAA single player Sony exclusive games that came out. So in regards to Horizon Forbidden West, which came out, I guess, was it last year? Late last year, at least, I want to say. Cost $212 million over 5 years with 300 employees to develop. And The Last of Us Part 2 cost $220 million with around 200 employees. In regards to that development, I think another crazy statistic from this from this is specifically the Call of Duty franchise on PlayStation. And they said in 2021, over 14 million users by device spent 30% or more of their time playing Call of Duty. Over 6 million users spent more than 70% of their time on Call of Duty. And about 1 million users spent 100% of their time, gaming time, on Call of Duty. In 2021, Call of Duty players spent an average of 116 hours, and they have it in a question mark, because even though you can tell, you can read behind the Sharpie, there is a margin of error in terms of the numbers, or I think they're also just trying to save face, if you will, to not give a errored number, or not make it definitive. But nonetheless, 116 hours per year playing Call of Duty. Call of Duty players spending more than 70% of their time on Call of Duty spent an average of 96 hours on the franchise, which is crazy. And then did I mention that the document suggests Call of Duty was worth $800 million for PlayStation revenue in just the U.S. during 2021. The document is said to be potentially 1.5 billion globally, and that's just the game alone, not counting accessory subscriptions, everything else. And that could jump to 15.9 billion a year, perhaps 13.9 billion. But yeah, that's a huge ass amount, and crazy to know. And now makes more sense in terms of why PlayStation is gonna definitely drag its feet in its forced participation in this merger with Xbox and Activision. So Hmm. I'm curious how they got this data, but according to Sony Entertainment internal surveys, almost half of PlayStation, well, I guess from the surveys, almost half of PlayStation 5 owners in the United States also own a Nintendo Switch, while less than 20% of PlayStation 5 owners in the United States also own an Xbox Series or X. So that's interesting. Man, those are some details, let me tell you. Man, that's some interesting data. Not gonna lie. All because of a Sharpie. Oh, I guess they definitely won't be doing that again. That's for sure. Yeah. So, keeping in line with all this FCC or FTC drama, there's also some details revealed in regards to on Microsoft's end, essentially, specifically in regards to some almost or potential acquisitions that at least Microsoft was considering, or at least I assume in an email seen by The Verge, Xbox chief Phil Spencer wrote to both Microsoft and CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, and Microsoft CFO Amy Hood, requesting a strategy approval to approach Sega Sammy over a potential acquisition of its Sega gaming studios. Quote, we believe that Sega has built a well-balanced portfolio of games across segments with global geographic appeal and will help us accelerate Xbox Game Pass both on and off console, said Spencer in the November 2020 email. So there is that. I guess apparently there was talks to acquire Zynga. Hitman, developer Hitman Iowa Interactive was on the watch list. Thunderville, not sure about them. I'm curious. What did they do? Oh, I guess they did the Gunk. I think that is a Xbox exclusive. SteamWorld Build, Viewfinder, Planet of Lana, Lego Brick Tales, apparently. So they've been churning out some games. I've not heard of them. Supergiant Games, the guys behind Hades. I think Transistor. Hades, Transistor. Forgot Hades 2 is on the way. Hades, Transistor, Pyre, Bastion. So that would have been an interesting get. Niantic, I think the Pokemon Go people. Playrix and Zynga. I'm not sure if I mentioned Zynga. But I guess they are eventually required by Take-Two. So, and then Bungie, now Sony-owned studio, was on the list with Microsoft internal documents stating that the acquisition of Bungie will include securing valuable IP, Destiny and its community, and integration of its dev and live ops infrastructure into Xbox Game Studios. Microsoft had identified a high burn rate risk for Bungie alongside NetEase's $100 million minority stake investment in 2018. It also noted that Destiny was one of the highest hours generating titles on console Game Pass. So that, well, yeah, I know. I feel like that would have been more iffy because knowing that Bungie was previously, I think there was some deal. Well, yeah, Microsoft, I think technically previously owned Bungie, with Halo, the at least the initial Halos before they disbanded, I think after Reach or whatever. So yeah, I think that would have been that probably wouldn't have been the best choice considering they wanted to be by themselves, even though now they're with Sony now. But I assume maybe they get their freedom to, obviously bring Destiny on multiple platforms instead of just restricting them to one, but maybe some perks outside of that. So that probably wouldn't have been the wise choice, but at least knowing now they didn't actually do that. So pretty interesting to know, interesting to know. Other than that does it for the news this episode. Get into what I've been playing, which has been Final Fantasy 16. Man, if I could guess, I don't know. I'm probably 20 maybe 25. I would guess probably maybe 25 hours. I could be totally off, maybe. I'm enjoying it. Not been playing it as much as I want. I've just been busy with external stuff that's been keeping me distracted from doing so. I plan to at least get some good time in this weekend, hopefully. Yeah, I don't know. It definitely heavy Game of Thrones vibes for sure. Combat, again, I think the term going around lately is Devil May Cry. What was the term I was saying? Final Fantasy May Cry was one I like. Yeah, I don't know. At least playing it so far, mind you, I've yet to fully, I assume, fully open up a lot of the combat, it feels like, to an extent. But at the same time, I do feel like, how would I say this? So, at least the issue I am seeing, at least playing so far. So mind you, the combat in Final Fantasy 16, you could tell is very, well, obviously they have the combat, I believe the combat director that worked on Devil May Cry. I think the series as a whole, but I think at least most recently Devil May Cry 5 work on this game, which you can definitely tell. But at the same time, I feel like it is being held back by that, if that makes sense. So it's like, at least from what I've experienced so far, the combat feels like it could use a little bit more depth. And maybe I have to look up some combo videos maybe to give myself a better concept, understanding everything. But I feel like the combat is not as not as flexible as I would personally want it to be. Yeah, I think the combat could be way more flexible, like Devil May Cry 5, where my biggest gripe is also the button. So you have like your standard, 3-4 hit combo button, which is square, standard wise. Then you have triangle, which is the magic button. And there is one specific combo where you just alternate between the two, where you do square, triangle, square, triangle, square, triangle. Even though the timing is a little weird in terms of it, at least specifically towards the end, I'm not sure how that quite works. But nonetheless, there is a combo like that, but that's about it when it comes to that. I just wish there was more flexibility and room for expression in terms of the combat. It's like they wanted to go Devil May Cry, but not all the way. It's like they wanted to go Devil May Cry, but only 75%, where I feel like that other 25% is missing. So it's at least for me, it's like, either if you're gonna be like Devil May Cry, go all the way or not. And I mean, I don't mean in terms of like obviously just like cut and paste Devil May Cry. Obviously, there's some big differences. Like, you know, Devil May Cry is more tongue in cheek and in your face kind of, rather than FF16, which is way more reserved and kind of more laid back, which totally is fine. But I would have really still liked it if FF16 like did away with the magic button, or had that as a third button, and then square and triangle or whatever button, at least have two combat buttons, and then make the combos a little bit more beefy when it comes to that depth. So I guess they're kind of means to kind of make up for that. It feels like is with the I forgot what they're called, the icon abilities or whatever, which are basically just modifiers, or basically you hold R2 to modify the buttons, and then you press triangle or square, which you do certain various attacks of varying properties. Like there's some parries / counters, and there's just general like standard multiple attacks and like pop-up attacks and things like that. But yeah, and then I know that definitely took a lot of mental rerouting and muscle memory to get accustomed to the controls. I think that also is another point which I think a lot of people do have issue with. The controls are a little awkward. I mean, I've gotten acclimated to them, but I don't know, maybe it might come to a point where I might be compelled to change them. But I guess mentally in my head, it's weird because you can choose your modified icon ability with R2, and then later in the game you get other icons, and then you have to hold L2 to do that, or to toggle between them, kind of like Devil May Cry, where you cycle through your in this case at least, you cycle through your icons, and icons have different properties. So there's also the square button, which is like that modifies depending on which icon you have. So like one is where you do a dash towards an enemy, and I think when you dash towards them, if they're on the ground, you do an attack, I want to say. The one is where you can kind of like the snatcher from Devil May Cry 4, where it grabs enemies close to you if they're small enough. If they're bigger, you don't get that property unless like they're staggered to a half, where you get like an additional attribute where you can like bring them down temporarily. They're not fully staggered, but you do get some extra hits in during that like moment. And then one that I got recently is that you can like throw projectiles with it. So I don't know, in my head and my muscle memory as somebody obviously who plays a lot of games, it was not as, I don't know, flawless as I like it to be. I don't know. I just part of me is wants to hold judgment until I've played more of the game, where I've gotten like even more, what I assume more icons and stuff, and maybe that makes things feel a bit better after I've gotten more of a in-depth hang of it. But I don't, from what I've played so far, it feels like this is pretty much the kind of loop, if you will, in terms of when it comes to combat. Maybe I'll gain more icons and they have maybe slightly different properties, but it's hard for me to see currently if that will make up for the issue I do have with the combat currently. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like so far, I feel like it should go at least fully blown Devil May Cry to an extent, or just kind of somewhat deviate off of like the FF7 remake / I, from not having played it, but I assume it's kind of similar, FF15 formula, and maybe make that a little bit more interesting. Because like when you do the combat where you can jump and do the jump stomp like Devil May Cry and stuff, it definitely puts you in that mindset of like, oh shit, I can do some really creative shit, which maybe you can, and maybe it could just be the fact that I'm not really going utilizing Clive to his full potential when it comes to his moveset. But I feel like I've gotten pretty much the muscle memory and idea of pretty much all of his arsenal, I feel like. So I don't know. That's really my biggest gripe so far. But we'll see. And then there's an arcade mode. So I mean, apparently there's like a kind of like a similar Devil May Cry ranking system. Where you gotta do varied combos and moves and stuff like that. So there could also be that part of me thinks maybe there could be like, I don't know, a dedicated icon ability that like lets you use square and triangle is a guess. I'm thinking that maybe that will make things more interesting, which I think that technically would if that is the case. But again, I've yet to come across that, and I don't know. This definitely inspired me to look up some YouTube videos of people doing combos, but then I don't want to spoil myself because that's definitely where you can fall into a trap of looking up some certain things for a game you haven't beaten yet. And, obviously for YouTubers that want to get like clicks and stuff, they'll put spoilers in the thumbnail. They're like, come on, man. I think that's ironically, I think that's how I kind of partially got spoiled with Devil May Cry 5. I think I was trying to look up something on YouTube in regards to, I think maybe doing a secret mission or something like that. And I was looking up, and then what do you know, like straight up a spoiler on the damn thumbnail. It was specifically in regards to Virgil, but then it was partially like at least to make myself feel okay about it. It was like, I mean, it was kind of a given that it was likely him, so it was kind of like, I mean, it was pretty much a given that it was him, but at the same time, you still wanted to be a surprise. So that's at least how I think I convinced myself. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm digging it. Don't get me wrong. That's just the biggest thing that I realize is starting to bother me a bit. But again, I'm giving it a benefit of the doubt that maybe like as I get more icons and the properties of those icons might make things more interesting, is my guess. So I definitely for sure want to see this through, see if that churns out. The quests are really good. The side quests, I'm really pretty much been doing every side quest that comes across along the main path. One thing I did notice as well is I think it comes off very linear, more linear than I expected, which is for me, I'm okay with. I think they probably have some means to make it not as much, at least mentally, I'm trying to wrap my head around. They do have you teleport a lot in terms of the map, which I'm totally okay with. And you can jump around the map, but I'm curious if I could just go to like some open area and if I can basically traverse through all the at least allocated linear points without transporting, even though I wouldn't otherwise. I'm just out of curiosity. A part of me wants to try that, kind of like Grand Theft Auto, where you kind of make your whole round around the whole map and just to see if you can, type thing. Part of me is thinking that you can't, but I am curious. Because yeah, this definitely feels like the most linear yeah, this feels like the most linear Final Fantasy, as somebody who's not played that many actually, but I assume the other Final Fantasies are generally pretty free roaming, probably after you reach the initial tutorial or whatever. So I don't know. Love Sid. Shouts out to Sid. He is a dope character. Just that voice, man. You could tell, man. He be pulling women left to right. You could just tell. He just got that. He got that swagger about him, and I respect. I love it. I love it. He was getting all types, all kinds of ass. That's for certain. Clive as a character, he's pretty cool. I dig him. He seems to be pretty much the traditional stoic archetype kind of, it feels like. Plot actually is pretty interesting. I've been engaged. There's been some interesting twists and turns that I was not expecting. So there's that as well. But a part of me feels like I technically haven't scratched the surface. I don't know. Maybe I feel like I've played at least 25 hours, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Apparently, if you want to be like do all the sub quests specifically, it's about 70 hours. We'll see. I don't know. Some people are saying different, haven't doing the same, but maybe they haven't done the full completionist stuff. And I think there's some, from what I've seen, some quests, hunting quests, kind of like Monster Hunter in a way. That I think that's a whole deviation. So we'll see. It's got its hooks in me moderately. I'm waiting for the moment. Oh yeah, how could I forget the damn icon battles? Boy, them things are epic as fuck. Epic in anime as hell. Epic in anime as hell. That's the best way I can describe it. It's like some straight up anime shit. It really is, which I'm totally fine with. I'm totally fine. I have no complaints about that. I really don't. So that's been fun. Yeah, overall, I am digging it. I'm not necessarily like stunned or like amazed or not. There's been some moments I have been amazed, but I don't know. I've not been. It's not hitting me like I maybe thought it would. Hype wise. But then again, this is an RPG. You gotta let them cook sometimes when it comes to getting into it, if you will. So we shall see. We shall see. We shall see. We shall see. We'll see if I'll report next episode if there's been any interesting developments when it comes to that. But those are my thoughts so far, at least from what I'm guessing, like 25 hours in. So yeah, other than that, that's all I've been gaming as of late. So let's get into what I've been watching. 15, I guess. So Hidden Invasion. Hidden Invasion has dropped. Watched episode 3 earlier last week. I have dug it a lot. I like the change of pace. It's like definitely a suspenseful crime thriller type vibe, which I'm digging. The whole concept of the scrolls, and as somebody who actually has not read any comics, I've really just, my main knowledge is through just watching the MCU, as well as the various YouTube videos, YouTube channels, Screen Crush, New Rockstars, Heavy Spoilers, I think, is another one. So those have kind of been my foundation when it comes to just background knowledge and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm really digging it. Samuel Jackson is back finally, for real this time, after the blip. So yeah, I've been digging it so far. I like a lot of the commentary that Samuel Jackson brings up. Obviously, a lot of being a black person in this world, which is that's real as hell. That's some real ass writing there for sure. And man, it was this dope ass scene with another character. I won't spoil. It's not a huge spoil, but either way, I'm not gonna spoil it. Where yeah, they're just talking about like, yeah, man, it really is tough. We both know how tough it is, and I was like, damn, that's dope. That was some good ass writing. Whoever wrote that shit was really good. I've never just I don't know, come across like some straight up writing like that like resonated with me. Obviously, as being a minority myself, I was like, damn, that really hit. That really hit. I dug it. Even when I'm in, or no, even when I'm out, I'm in. I was like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, Fury. What else? Is there anything else notable to bring up in regards to it? Yeah, without spoiling it. Yeah, it's been really interesting. And then, it's the whole thing of who's a Skrull, who isn't, who's been a Skrull this whole time, like even going potentially back to all the Infinity War stuff and things like that, which is very interesting. And I think that makes it very fun, the show very fun in terms of who is who's was he a Skrull this whole time? And then there is I think the question a lot of people brought up is the concern that, depending on who it could be or is, like finding out some of these people was a Skrull like the whole time, or potentially throughout the whole history, if you will, maybe is kind of scary, because like it could definitely devalue some of the emotional beats from some of the previous stuff. So I hope they're walking carefully when it comes to that, because like at least what's being alluded to is one particular person being a Skrull, and man, if that person is a Skrull, that's just gonna definitely devalue some stuff in terms of previous movies in retrospect after this. But we'll see. I assume they're gonna be very careful about that, because yeah, otherwise it definitely would be some conflict, if you will. But overall, thoroughly enjoying Secret Invasion. It's pretty good. I think 6 episodes, halfway technically. So also have been watching, I forgot to talk about, I watched a while back, was Black Mirror season 6, which yeah, man, that boy, this season was a doozy in some ways for sure. Definitely some very good episodes. Specifically Joanne is Our Awful was really good. What was another one? I forgot what it was called, but it was basically the one with Paul Ryan and I think Josh Hartnett, where I don't want to even spoil it. Basically the concept is they're both I don't want to spoil it. Basically, I'll at least say that they're both astronauts, and they play with a certain technology when it comes to that. And that leads to some very, very crazy shit. I'll say that, man. That was a pretty good episode too. Then like some of the other episodes was very odd. It just, at least my issue with it, if it was an episode on its own, a series outside of Black Mirror, I think I would have liked it more. But I think because of the premise of Black Mirror and the expectation of Black Mirror, which is essentially issues that is a commentary on issues that could potentially happen in the future, if technology, we get technology at a certain point, which a couple of the episodes of this season do very much oddly go against in a lot of ways. So like just a couple episodes take a very odd supernatural direction. I can at least say that is very like jarring, especially in regards to your expectations of what a Black Mirror episode is, which of course, like I said already, is that, basically what if technology got to a point and brings up some of these, maybe in some cases, gray issues and kind of exploit them in certain ways, and just the technology that's in front of us and how potentially it can be misused and abused and things like that, which I think some of those episodes very much go away from, which I think leads to just a very odd, jarring like sentiments, at least for me. So, but outside of that, the highs hit, but some of those lows were, it was kind of comical at a point. I'm like, what is this? So, yeah, man, that was a doozy. I'll at least allude to one. It was one episode with Zazie Beetz. She's like a paparazzi. I'll leave it at that, but it takes a very odd turn. It takes a very weird, unexpected odd turn. And I think that's been a sentiment for a lot of people in regards to some of the episodes. Again, without spoiling, But overall, I thoroughly did enjoy it, with those exceptions. But man, it was really good. So, with that being said, that also kept me, or got me in like a Black Mirror mood. And there was the one movie that came out, I guess apparently way back in 2019, called Black Mirror Bandersnatch, which for some reason I never got around to watching. Maybe, I don't know, part of me was like, I don't know. I heard about the feature that you can choose your own adventure, similar to like Walking Dead, the Telltale games and things like that. Which, yeah, I don't know why I never got around to it, but at least now, what, 4 years later, I got around to watching it. And man, this was a very awesome experience. I'll say that because it's very unique. Like, you can't experience it anywhere but Netflix, to my understanding. Yeah, I really liked the commentary of this movie. There definitely fourth wall breaking moments. I'm just amazed at what I assume is a lot of work that went into this, because at least just to paint a brief picture. So there are a fair amount of moments within this movie where you're asked to make a choice between two options, pretty much just like like your home, if you've played like Telltale games and stuff like that, where you make two choices generally, and you choose one, see the outcome, and see what happens essentially. There are some moments where it does seem to be like a direct, like, oh yeah, this is the wrong choice. Let's rewind back and try again. And, obviously you'll make a different choice and then continue on your route. But it is interesting to kind of experiment and, I'm just very fascinated and curious of like the development process when it came to this movie, because you could tell there's a lot of work that had to be done in terms of the various branching paths, and those branching paths having branching paths, and those branching paths having branching paths and stuff like that, which is pretty damn like mind blowing when you think about it. I just would love to. I'm probably gonna look up after this, some like YouTube making of, or even a Netflix making of Bandersnatch, and see just the whole process of how it goes, how they got Netflix involved in that regard, in terms of like how they like got that to integrate with Netflix's system, because then Netflix, like, it has to integrate with their whole, like, I don't know, setup whenever you launch a movie from all the many optional platforms you can. But I guess obviously you pretty much just need a remote by you. But then there were some weird moments where, like, because of the remote I had and the responsiveness of it was sluggish, it was some particular moments, not to spoil, that did need more response, which I wasn't able to fully get, and kind of like, it did kind of tarnish the experience in that extent. But just as overall project experience, we got into experience. It was dope. It was very dope. Even as somebody who obviously has had experience playing a lot of Telltale games. I forgot. I'm pretty sure there's a term for these games. Let me look it up actually. What would you call a Telltale game? What would you call it? What would you call a Telltale game genre? Adventure. I guess technically adventure. Point and click. Yeah, kind of point and click. Well, at least in the sense of this movie is not as much, but it's probably closest to in a way. Telltale style. I mean, that almost makes sense. Episodic. Yeah, man, I don't think it's a fully realized generalized term, but nonetheless, yeah, I was curious about that. But yeah, man, if you're a fan of Black Mirror, first and foremost, then yeah, I highly recommend. I say even if you're not, like, let's say if this the first movie, if I wanted to give somebody a taste, of what Black Mirror is, I think I would actually want them to experience this first, and then like this actually intrigued their interest. And like, oh, is a lot of other stuff like this? Yeah, let me see what this Black Mirror is about, because I think it very much is very on brand, for sure, in terms of the Black Mirror theme of the shows and stuff, episodes. So, man, yeah, that was a great experience. It very much was. And obviously just being a movie you're in control of was pretty dope. So, hell yeah, Black Mirror Bandersnatch. If you have not watched that and you're a fan of Black Mirror, highly recommend it. Even though you probably might have. I might be one of the few that probably hasn't. So there you go. With that being said, I think that will conclude episode 177 of Switches Sites. If you did like the show, feel free to like, rate, and subscribe on your various podcasting platforms. You can catch me record this live on Twitch TV/aswitch Thursday evenings. Generally, you can also catch archives of this video or stream on youtube.com/aswitch. But yeah, until next time, y'all, get your damn game on. Feel free to fuck. Aw, yeah.
nobody's safe.